Apologies for our late arrival, but our attendant has phoned in unwell and we could not find the mace. And a little bit of knowledge for you. Chains don't count, robes don't count, but it has to have the mace in place for it to be a proper meeting of the council. Please be seated, everybody. Right. Good evening, members of the public up there in the public gallery. Just to remind you, you are here to observe, not join in. Okay, thank you very much. Just to let you know that over the weekend, the council house will be lit with yellow, which is to commemorate 5 years since the 5th anniversary of COVID, and the colour is because it used to be a candle that we would put out to remember things, so it's a candle colour. Right, have we had any apologies for absence? No, full house. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Ashley Smith. Okay. Thank you. Declarations of interest is going to be an interesting one tonight, so it'll be a long speech. Any prior declarations of interest made under the Members' Code of Conduct have been published online. Agenda item 6B refers to the West Midlands Pension Fund. The advice from the monitoring officer is that members who are in the West Midlands Pension Fund should disclose a non-pecuniary interest, as this is a general policy issue rather than affecting individual pension situations or personal financial standing. This will not prevent members from participating or voting at this meeting. I now invite members to declare any additional interests. So I'm one. Anybody else? Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Declaring an interest as an ex-trustee of the pension fund. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bayton.
Yes, Madam Mayor, non-pecuniary interest as a member of the West Midlands Pension Fund.
Councillor Casey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, same non-pecuniary interest as a member of the West Midlands Pension Fund. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Aston.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Shortly after being elected, I joined the West Midlands Pension Fund, and then Eric Pickles, I think, decided that we could no longer be a member. So I was in it for about 9 months. So non-pecuniary interest, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hussain. Mushtaq Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Non-pecuniary interest in the West Midlands Pension Fund.
Thank you. Councillor Greenaway.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Non-pecuniary interest in the pension fund.
Councillor Kettle.
Once again, Madam Mayor, a non-pecuniary interest in as a member of the pension fund.
Councillor Ali.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, a non-pecuniary interest in the West Midlands Pensions Fund and also a member of Dudley Leisure, DB Leisure. Thank you.
Councillor Sahota.
Yes, Madam Mayor. So a non-pecuniary member of the pension fund. Thank you.
Councillor Kayam, Adila.
Non-pecuniary interest in the West Midlands Pension Fund.
Thank you. And last but not least, Councillor Denning.
Member of DB Leisure.
Thank you very much. A few officers have recently left the employment of the council. I'd like to thank Mohammed Farouk, Louisa Fulke, Brendan Arnold and other officers for their past service, and we wish them well and all the best for the future. This is the first, also the last full council that we have when we are able to say thank you to Helen Martin, who leaves the authority soon. I'd like to pass on the council's best wishes to all of these officers for their service to the council. Thank you. Right, agenda item 4, reports and recommendations, and I call on the leader, the feasibility study.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, members of the council, I move that the recommendation as set out in the report be approved and adopted.
Seconded by?
Formally seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. I've got one indication for somebody wishing to speak. Councillor Ali.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Let's take a moment to talk about the journey of this so-called crazy town council proposal. According to Councillor Priest, he asked a question in the council, and as if by magic, the report conveniently appeared at the cabinet meeting, just in time for the budget setting last week. He must be one of the luckiest councillors in this chamber. Meanwhile, Madam Mayor, many of us have not only asked questions, but successfully passed motions with clear asks, like the one to bring Dudley Town Football Club back home, or the drop curb funding for disabled residents. And what happened? Silence, not a word back in terms of those motions. What we witnessed last week, Madam Mayor, at the budget meeting wasn't just a mess. It was a disgraceful display of governance and political leadership from the Conservative administration. It is situations like this that erode public trust and confidence in politics. We saw, Madam Mayor, vanity projects and political self-interest prevail over common sense. While the Conservative administration slashed £42 million from vital public services, they still found £75,000 to waste on an unnecessary feasibility study. Madam Mayor, the Liberal Democrats failed to stand up for vulnerable residents so that they could progress their crazy idea, an unnecessary expensive town council that would force residents to pay even more for services they should already be receiving. Rather than holding the Conservative administration accountable for its failures, for the cuts, the incompetence and the neglect of our communities, the Liberal Democrats were more concerned with protecting their own positions and scrambling to safeguard their influence. They went way beyond pandering to the Conservatives, selling out their community for £75,000 feasibility study, a study that nobody asked for, wasn't in the budget and cannot be afforded at this time, just when £42 million has been cut. Surely, Madam Mayor, if the Conservative administration have £75,000 slushing around, shouldn't it be spent on one of the 157 service cuts that were listed in the budget report? Instead of fighting for the services that local people rely on, Madam Mayor, instead of standing up for conservative cuts, the Liberal Democrats made a backroom deal, trading away their credibility for a pile of cash to fund this delusion of a feasibility study. Look at what Liberal Democrat-run council did in Windsor and Maidenhead. It begged the government to hike council tax by 25%. And if they get their way here in Cradley, if this town council is created with the power to raise taxes beyond what Dudley sets, we all know what's coming next, Madam Mayor. Higher bills, lower quality services, more families struggling to make ends meet. All because the Liberal Democrats would rather play politics than stand up for the people of Cradley. Cradley, Madam Mayor, deserves councillors who put people first, not politicians desperate to save their own skin. We reject this madness. We reject more charges for services residents already pay for and deserve. We stand for responsible governance and prioritise people, not political games. Therefore, Madam Mayor, we will not be supporting the recommendations in this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. I call on Councillor Priest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whether it's through incompetence or malice, it's important that we dispel some of the myths and misinformation that's been spread about this proposal. Now, Councillor Ali just referred to me as the luckiest councillor in this chamber. Well, actually, I think it's a demonstration that when we work together, like our residents have elected us to do, we can achieve even when we're in opposition. And I think that's a lesson that the Labour Party would do well to learn. Now, last week, we had a line of Labour councillors just spread mistruths about this proposal. I want to go through some of them. So, Councillor Eccles, you were wrong to compare this to the government's reorganisation agenda. The White Paper explicitly references the importance of town and parish councils and its district councils, which are set to be abolished. And I'd hope as the one person in the room who can actually vote on that, you would know the difference. Now, I also recall that you mentioned planning. I understand why one of two of Aldi's representatives might not appreciate residents having a strong voice on local planning decisions. However, in my view, anything that strengthens the view of the voices of local people in the face of large corporations can only be a good thing. Councillor Casey, you raised, sorry, Councillor Casey, the same mistake it always is. Councillor Casey, you raised concerns about cost. So let's be clear. For an average of just 75 pence per person per week, we secure a guarantee of investment in local services. That's not an expense, that's an investment in our community. As for the money spent on this study, it's not money wasted. If a town council is established, those funds come back to Dudley, as Dudley will no longer have to provide the services that the town council provides, and so will be making a saving in the long term. This is about investing in Cradley's long-term future, not the short term. Now, Councillor Roberts, you spoke about priorities last week. And actually, of all the contributions, I've got to tell you, I valued yours because I know it came from a place of experience. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I appreciate the contribution. Where I disagree is the implication that it's a zero-sum game. And I support a town council precisely because it will protect and invest in local services for the next 5, 10, 15 years in the future, rather than just for the course of the budget that we set last week. Now, I think the issue of principle is crucial. If we're to believe that if we're to believe that the Labour Party stands by its principles, then we must also recognise that last year, when they rejected a budget amendment that would have protected library services, they did so on principle. The same applies when they voted against calls for action on off-road bikes, on rogue telecommunications companies, and support for pensioners using their winter fuel allowance. That their opposition comes from a position of principle. Now, I'm sure that the people of Cradley watched with great interest last week as Labour politicians lined up to undermine this proposal, only for their group whip to initially second, and then the wider group cheer on an identical proposal for Sedgley. They will have a hard time explaining that to residents in Cradley who believe that they are undeserving of self-governance, but Sedgley is. Now, I welcome this report to the Council. It presents a real opportunity for the people of Cradley, a chance to shape our own future and take control of the decisions that affect us most. But most of all, I welcome that when it comes down to it, it will be Cradley residents that make the decision themselves through a referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Priest. I call on Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. They say a week is a long time in politics, and hopefully we're not here until 10 o'clock this evening talking about issues like this. And I'm not going to take the full 5 minutes up, Madam Mayor, because you can see from the number of red little buzzers on the microphones of the Conservative benches how critical this motion is to them. Now, I would like to commend Councillor Harley, because you've managed to do last week is to buy those people off for 75,000. But I would recommend everybody has a look at paragraph 8. In undertaking a feasibility study, the council is not committing to creating a town council, and should therefore be no additional risk to the council in allocating this funding. And the honesty is because I believe that Councillor Harley believes in parish councils as strongly as I do. I don't believe he believes in parish councils. He recognises, and I'm fairly confident in this, the importance of a Dudley Borough Council. And I think it's a perfect learning curve, Councillor Priest, because in the same way I made a prediction with regard to the reserves being eaten up as part of the budget, I'll have a look into my little crystal ball and I see £75,000 wasted, £75,000 wasted, and then the leader of the council will come back and he'll say, well, following the review, I don't think parish councils are necessarily the right way. And he tells us why we are angry on this side, because if I'd have been in Councillor Priest's position and I had 75,000 quid to negotiate with the leader of the opposition, would a parish council be my priority when I could be protecting the voluntary sector, when I could be protecting the most vulnerable people in our community? Because the one thing this debate, and many congratulations, Councillor Harley, because you've managed to make it absolutely crystal clear to the people of Dudley where Lib Dem priorities are. A parish council. A parish council. £75,000, Madam Mayor, of our community's hard-won money to be spent as a priority over the voluntary sector, as a priority over some of the most vulnerable groups seeking help from domestic violence and all of the other areas. No. The cost of a vote, £75,000 for paragraph 8, Madam Mayor. In undertaking a feasibility study, the council is not committing to creating great politics. Absolutely quality politics. The only people who've lost out, Madam Mayor, are those that are looking to the 72 of us to actually look towards how we represent the interests of the community that we serve, 24 wards, and not the privileged few. And he mentions our chief whip, second in a motion. Let's not forget why that did, because it absolutely outlined Councillor Kesey exposing the absurdity by adding Sedgley, a second ward, when we could have added 24 wards. So the cost of £42 million worth of cuts to the people of Dudley is this £75,000 feasibility study into a parish council. I repeat, Madam Mayor, what I said last Monday: shame on you, shame on you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. I have no further speakers, so I call on the Leader of the Council for his right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start by answering Councillor Ali. He got up and said that Councillor Priest was the luckiest councillor in this chamber. Actually, it's Councillor Ali, Madam Mayor, who's the luckiest councillor in this chamber, because he got to finish his budget speech from last week before you cut him off. So unlucky for the rest of us, mind you. I'll go back to May last year, Madam Mayor. We face a new age of politics, consensus, gathering around the table, finding a way forward. That was the Labour leadership approach last May. It ended in around October, where they stopped negotiating, stopped attending meetings to find a way forward, because this authority, despite our group's improvement in numbers, is still in no overall control. And that is the sensible way forward. Group leaders, cabinet and shadow cabinet around the table. No red lines from the Labour group. Red lines indeed from the Liberal Democrats. And not just town councils, but the security and guarantee that we will have 3 leisure centres in this borough. Libraries not closed. The protection for town halls. None of that came from the party opposite. Now, the LGA peer improvement board, Madam Mayor, suggested and criticised me for not going faster and quicker. And one quote from a member of that board was, well, Wolverhampton have announced £40 million worth of cuts. Why can't you do the same? And I replied that I wanted to be sustainable, so we didn't have to keep coming back year after year after year. That's what last week's budget provides, stability for this authority. Councillor Lowe and his former deputy supported that stance by the LGA Improvement Board. But now, Madam Mayor, when we deliver that budget, it's you're going too fast and too far. You cannot have it both ways. You either are a sensible opposition that puts forward red lines and some common sense proposals, or you oppose for the sake of opposing. Now, we delivered that budget last week, Madam Mayor, and it is an achievement for a minority administration to deliver a budget of that type. But we're not the only council that delivered tough budgets. Labour-controlled Wolverhampton, £40 million worth of cuts last week, 20% hike in car parking charges. We're freezing car parking charges for 5 full years until March 2030. That's what this administration can do. Nice to see you. Walsall, a Conservative-controlled council, £30 million worth of cuts. Sandwell, only £19 million, Madam Mayor. So I suggest they'll have to revisit these spending reductions this time next year. We've done that, and it's a budget that is sustainable and provides financial stability, and at the right moment allows us to reinvest in these very same services and rebuild them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Harley. Is that agreed? Aye. That is, no, fair enough. I've heard a no, so we will have to go to the vote. Can you organise the vote, please? Just remember, vote green if you agree with this motion, no if you don't, and abstain if you need to. Oh, what are the maths? Got to add to 71. I reckon there's one person not voting. Oh, I got, yes. I should have 71 votes. Yeah. I have now. Yes, thank you. That is carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Right, well, now we come to the reason why you're all up there. We come to the petition for debate. Keep Dudley Borough's leisure a public service. Under the provisions of the petitions scheme, a petition for debate has been received containing 3,000 signatures. Can I welcome Tony Barnsley to the meeting? On behalf of the petition organisers, Tony Barnsley now has the opportunity to address the council for a maximum of 3 minutes. Thank you, Tony. I have to apologise. We usually have a podium, but apparently it's Himley Hall. But I'm sure Tony's well versed in reading and having the microphone in his sound.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tony Barnsley speaking on behalf of Keep DB Leisure, a public service campaign. Over 5,000 people have signed a petition against the council's attempts to privatise the operating of our leisure centres and call for them to remain council-run centres to benefit the communities they serve. Any private company that is due to take over the running of our leisure centres will aim to make a profit. That profit will be made through charging higher prices to users, reducing concessionary prices for the most vulnerable, and by attacking the pay, terms and pensions of staff. Any private company seeking to maximise its profits will seek to maximise those price rises and maximise the attacks on the dedicated staff who provide the service to the public of Dudley. It's been placed on record of one Tory councillor stating that it is staff pensions where a private operator could make so-called efficiency savings. Why should a council, funded by the taxpayer to benefit the community it serves, facilitate a private company to profit from what it should be providing directly itself? The motion you will debate on today gives you all a chance to end wasting money on trying to privatise the running of our leisure centres. If there are councillors in this chamber that state they can't run the leisure centres effectively, shouldn't they be the ones that transfer themselves out of this chamber rather than transferring the service and the staff out to a private company? Transferring staff out will see a private operator attack their pay, their terms, their pensions, or possibly all three? Why should staff and users suffer because councillors fail to run the service effectively? On behalf of over 5,000 who have signed the petition and many more council taxpayers we didn't reach, I urge all decent councillors to stop wasting money on these privatisation plans, vote against the amendment and vote for the motion that follows unamended. Keep our leisure centres run directly for the good of the community they serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Exactly 3 minutes. You must have been practicing. Right, timing it. Right. Well, the usual procedure at this moment is that we debate the petition for up to 30 minutes. And if there isn't even a motion, we will keep going for 30 minutes. However, you will be aware that Councillor Ellen Cobb has submitted a notice of motion on this very subject, which is set out at agenda item 6A. With the Council's consent, I propose that we suspend procedural rules to enable the petition to be dealt with alongside the notice of motion at this meeting of the Council. Do you agree? That's good. Don't know what I'd do if you said no, but anyway, there you go. Right, so I now call the motion on protecting public leisure services in Dudley Borough. I call on Councillor Ellen Cobb, and I believe Councillor Cook is seconding? Right. Councillor Cobb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am proud to move this motion, which will be seconded by my colleague, Councillor Matt Cook. I want to thank everyone who signed the petition, the councillors across all parties who have pledged their support, and the Keep DB Leisure, a public service campaign, for their dedication and tireless work. The past few months have clearly shown how much Dudley residents value these services, with 5,000 people signing the petition in support of keeping this provision public. As councillors, we should be immensely proud of this valuable public service which has supported our community for decades. It is our duty to ensure these services continue to play their vital role in benefiting the health and well-being of our residents. Our leisure centres matter and are more than just places to exercise. They are lifelines for people of all ages and backgrounds. They promote health and well-being, from children learning to swim and developing skills, to older residents staying active. These facilities improve lives and reduce pressure on the NHS by promoting fitness and preventing illness. Our leisure centres are inclusive and cater to all needs and abilities. There are classes for different fitness levels, accessible lifts and changing facilities for people with mobility needs. They ensure everyone can participate. Our leisure centres are affordable. Unlike private gyms, council-run leisure services prioritise access over profit. This is especially critical for residents in areas facing significant social deprivation. Our leisure centres attract skilled and dedicated specialist staff who deserve to be treated fairly. Our instructors and specialists provide high-quality sessions and build a strong sense of community. Why should their pay, conditions and pensions be at risk? Our leisure centres support grassroots sport clubs. Our residents rely on these facilities to train, compete and develop their skills. For instance, the Halesowen Swimming Club uses the pool almost every day. Without access to council-run facilities, where would these athletes go? Our leisure centres are community hubs that foster a sense of belonging. I've spoken to many residents and staff who share this view. A parent of a participant of the Special Olympics group at Halesowen Leisure Centre said, "My son only leaves the house to come here." That's how much these centres matter. They go far beyond fitness. They bring people together, combat isolation and strengthen our communities. Madam Mayor, council-run centres should be the cornerstone of our communities, offering affordable access for everyone. Privatisation does not mean improvement. Companies that take over public services have a track record of price hikes, staff cuts and declining standards. 31 million of public money has been invested in our leisure centres. Are we really going to hand over these facilities to private companies, allowing them to profit from taxpayers' investment? This council has a responsibility to maintain these centres for future generations. As we look to safeguard the future of our leisure services, we must also ensure other key facilities are protected. Little has been said about the future of the Dell Stadium, the only public running track in Dudley. We must commit to its continued provision as part of our dedication to keeping these services public. Madam Mayor, this motion is about protecting our vital public sports facilities. A vote against this motion is a vote for risk, decline and potential outsourcing in the future. A vote for this motion is for the people of Dudley, for the protection, investment and celebration of our leisure services. I urge every member of this council to stand with our residents, our communities and our future. Vote to keep DB Leisure in public hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cobb. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I stand to second the motion that my colleague, Councillor Ellen Cobb, has moved so passionately to support the thousands of people who have signed this petition to safeguard the future of our leisure provision. Now, I know I don't look like the most dedicated gym goer, but let me tell you something. I absolutely understand how vital these centres are. Leisure centres aren't just buildings with a pool and a treadmill. They are lifelines. They are where children learn to swim, a skill that one day could save their lives. They are where elderly residents stay active, independent and connected. And they're where families exercise together and where grassroots sports thrive. And where people recovering from illness find their strength again. And yet, time and time again, what do we see under the Conservative administration? Cuts, closures, price hikes. It's as if this council sees leisure centres as an afterthought, something to be sacrificed when budgets get tight. But let me ask, what kind of message does this send? That public health doesn't matter? That community well-being is expandable? Because let's be crystal clear, when leisure centre closes, they don't come back. We know this in Briley Hill after the Conservative administration closed the leisure centre back in 2005 in the face of public uproar similar to now. The damage is permanent, and up to this day, we never got a leisure centre back in Briley Hill, which I am sure ordinary working class people would have appreciated. And the impact, it ripples through every generation. Kids lose a safe space to play, adults lose an affordable way to stay fit, and our NHS faces even greater strain from rising health problems. If we are truly serious about supporting families, providing public health and building stronger communities, then we must be serious about protecting our leisure centres as a public service. This is not just about budgets, it's about real people's lives. So I say this to the Conservative administration. Let's think beyond the next budget spreadsheet. Think about the opportunities it presents if only the Conservative administration got their house in order on commercialisation, which they failed time and time again. We cannot let our leisure centres be outsourced to a private provider. We want to keep our leisure centres open as a public service, accessible and affordable. This strength of public feeling on this matter is clear from the petition. Let's hear a clear and unwavering commitment from the leader of this council that our leisure centres will stay open under public control and never be handed over to the private company. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. We have one amendment in the name of Councillor Atkins. So, Councillor Atkins, would you like to move your amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Today, we stand at a critical juncture for our borough's leisure services. We all recognise the undeniable value of these services, our swimming pools, our leisure centres, and our commitment to ensuring that every child can learn the vital life skill of swimming. But we also recognise the financial realities that demand responsible governance. The amendment before us today reflects a clear and balanced vision, one that safeguards our public leisure services while acknowledging the need for financial sustainability. Let me be clear, we have rejected closure. Whilst other councils across the country have made cuts that deprive communities of their leisure centres, this administration has stood firm on its commitment to keeping all 4 centres open: Dudley, Hales Owen, Stourbridge and the Dell. Each continue to serve our communities, providing vital health and wellbeing benefits to residents of all ages. But the commitment alone is not enough. We must also act wisely. The previous motion sought to shut down the procurement process before it had fully concluded, ignoring the due diligence that residents expect from us. This amendment ensures that all options remain on the table, including continued public management and potential contractual arrangements with a private provider, so that we can make an informed decision based on facts and not fear. Let me emphasise this. No decision has been made to outsource our services. And while we're talking about it, let's talk about language. Outsourcing involves contracting out services or functions to external organisations. We retain ownership and control over the services, but rely on their expertise to run them. Privatisation that is being bandied around refers to the transfer of ownership and management of public assets. This is not happening. We are seeking to outsource or find options to outsource. No agreements have been signed. Instead, we are insisting on a thorough and transparent scrutiny process, one that will evaluate the best possible way forward for leisure services in our borough. Unlike the opposition, which would have us discard a process before understanding its outcomes, we believe in responsibility. The amendment upholds our moral duty to provide accessible leisure facilities, particularly for our most vulnerable residents. It ensures that discounts and concessions will continue where they deliver clear public health benefits, and it keeps the council at the heart of decision making, ensuring no change will be made without rigorous scrutiny and full accountability to the public. This amendment is not just about leisure centres, it's about responsible governance, and it is about maintaining services while ensuring we are not burdening taxpayers unnecessarily. It's about making informed decisions, not political gestures. That is why I urge all of you today to support this amendment, support the commitment to transparency, fairness and financial prudence. Let's move forward together to secure the future of our borough's leisure services, not just for today, but for generations to come. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins. I must admit, I've forgotten who was seconding it. I wrote it down. Sorry, Councillor Bradley. Do we have a seconder?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So we're now talking to the amendment, not to the motion. We're talking to the amendment. And I just want the members to look at that clock. We started at 7:15 and we will have to finish at 7:15. All right? So if you want to have a vote on this, get ready. If you want to talk it out, well, it's all up to you. I'll be guided by you. But only 30 minutes for this because it's a petition. Right, I call on Councillor Sean Kesey to speak on the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know what to say about this. Is there a bin anywhere nearby? Because, Councillor Atkins, I've seen the value that, not you personally, but your group places in scrutiny when we scrutinised potential changes to the mayoral service. And the scrutiny committee recommended it was referred to and debated by full council, and then miraculously it popped up as part of the budget and none of that happened. Now, to me, this is a word salad that means absolutely nothing. You know, referring things to scrutiny. Well, we all know that you can refer everything to as many scrutiny committees as you want, but it's still the cabinet member that makes the decision. So all I would say to members, and I'm talking to my own overview and scrutiny committee members, who I know have got the best interests of this council at heart because I've worked with them for 12 months. This amendment means nothing and I would recommend that we vote it down. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kesey. I call on Councillor Shaukat Ali.
I was going to propose, do we move to vote? Thank you.
Oh, right. Which we can do. All those in favour of moving to the vote? Anyone against? Right, well, I'll put to you all then the amendment in the name of Councillor Atkins. The right of reply rests for you, Councillor Cobb.
Is this on? Sorry. I'll be very quick. I urge members to vote against this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we'll have a proper recorded vote, please. I won't go on just what people say. So we can have a vote, please. So please indicate if you are in favour of this amendment, if you are against this amendment, or you wish to abstain. And do check that the little square goes to the full colour. Right. Here we go. Right. That has fallen. Okay. So we now go back to the main motion unamended. So I will now take speakers on that. When the screen has changed for me. Anybody? How are we doing down there? Just to explain to anybody, our screens don't show anything at the moment, and I'm waiting for it to tell me who are. Here we go. And I call on Councillor Shaukat Ali, and remember we are speaking to the main motion unamended. Thank you, Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thanks to everyone for voting down the amendment. I want to thank Tony Barnsley for presenting this powerful petition signed by thousands of residents who are standing up for our leisure services and demanding that they remain in public hands. And also at this time, I want to thank my colleague, Councillor Ellen Cobb, for the motion. Let me be clear, Madam Mayor, the petition and the motion are about protecting our services, our staff, their pay and conditions. It's about ensuring our council steps up and makes things work instead of always taking the lazy, I was going to say the crazy, it's probably this destructive route of outsourcing. Madam Mayor, let's talk about the Conservative administration's record because it's abysmal. Closure after closure. And you heard Councillor Cook mention early on, they shut down Brierley Hill Leisure Centre in 2005. And 4 years later, in 2009, they did shut down Coseley Leisure Centre too. And we all know, Madam Mayor, that once public services go, it is rare, if ever, they come back. Well, we certainly haven't seen any signs of these centres coming back, Madam Mayor. They couldn't even run a simple cafe at Starbridge. Did they learn from that failure? Absolutely not. Instead, they built another cafe in the brand new Duncan Edwards Leisure Centre. And guess what? They closed that too. And what about the Duncan Edwards Leisure Centre, Madam Mayor? It was supposed to reduce the need for the council subsidy. That was one of the reasons for replacing the Wellington Road Leisure Centre. Guess what has happened? The subsidy is higher. Why? Because they can't staff it and run it to capacity. The Alliance Leisure Service, the company that built the leisure centre, has collapsed, and all the repair and maintenance costs have fallen back on the council. Instead of securing a standard 5-year gym contract, they have locked themselves into a more expensive annual contract. The roof is leaking, and then because they couldn't stop themselves, they introduced car parking charges, losing between £27,000 and £32,000 in membership fees per month, when the car parking only brings in about over £5,000 a month. And they wonder why costs are spiralling out of control. Madam Mayor, it's clear that this is not the fault of our hard-working staff. This is a failure of Conservative administration's political leadership, a failure to take control of the council's commercialisation activities, as has been said before. Time and again, this has shown their complete incompetence when it comes to managing our services. Instead of making things work, they take the easy way out. Cut it, close it, outsource it, or hope someone else picks up the pieces to the detriment of our staff and residents. They claim they are the only council running leisure services in-house, as if that's an excuse for failure. Why can't we be the only council doing it and will still be successful in doing it? A number of councils, including Poole, Southwark, Haringey and North, Yorkshire have taken steps to bring back their leisure services into public ownership. Southwark saw 2,500 increase in their membership. Madam Mayor, enough is enough. We won't take the warm words from the Liberal Democrats who have done nothing to save our leisure services, yet somehow claim credit for doing so. Madam Mayor, Councillor Harley and Atkins say the future of our leisure centres is safe for the next 5 years. Well, he has the chance tonight to put that on record, to stop the procurement process and guarantee the future of leisure services. Let's see if they will stand by their words. Madam Mayor, we will not stand by and not let this Conservative administration do away with public services, with our public leisure services. We stand with the petitioners, we stand with the public, and we will fight to keep our services public. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. I call on Councillor Tromans.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for calling me to speak. Although the Unity Group may be no more, perhaps tonight we can have a consensus around the future of our leisure services. According to a 2022 report made by the local government associations, councils in England are currently the biggest funder of sport and leisure services. Across the UK, local authorities run more than 2,700 leisure centres and 33% of all swimming pools. I would hazard a guess that almost all of those services have received a public subsidy. This is no different in Dudley, where all the publicly accessible pools are run by the council via DB Leisure. More than 5,000 residents have signed a petition aimed at preventing the privatisation of Dudley Council's leisure service. My group stands with them and have done from the very start of their campaign. This campaign also builds on a motion, on a campaign launched by one of my residents, Tracy Wood, who took on colleagues in her party to make sure that we still have the current level of leisure provision today. In 2017, Tracy put together a pledge which 59 members of this council signed. Some of them are still sat here today. Pete Lowe, Simon Phipps, Andrea Goddard, Paul Bradley, Adam Aston, Steve Clark, even yourself, Madam Mayor. And we'll be watching very closely to see how they vote tonight. I am very relieved to hear from that side that they are now committed to leisure services, especially given their track record in this area around privatisation. I believe it was under the leadership of Pete Lowe that our libraries ended up being outsourced. So great stuff. Great to hear that you're on board. It's really, truly wonderful. Tonight, we have the opportunity to pass a motion which recognises that privatisation is no solution, that we should protect the public's investment, and that residents would pay the price for outsourcing. If a private firm were to take over DB Leisure, they would most likely have to pay higher charges, and we could well see the ending of free swimming for children in the school holidays. So, in conclusion, I ask you to support the motion that was moved excellently by my friend Ellen Cobb and seconded by Matt Cook. Support this motion. Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Tromans. I call on Councillor Shanila Mogul.
Yes, yeah. Madam Mayor, I stand here today in support of this motion, not just as a councillor, but as someone whose family relies on Dudley leisure facilities. I understand firsthand the vital role they play in our community. This is more than just a place to exercise. It is a cornerstone of our town, a space where generations have learned to swim, stay active and come together. I remember, I'm showing my age now, when the excitement of swimming lessons with my school, earning those coloured badges that you sew onto your swimming costumes. And I remember the thrill of finally beating my siblings at squash and badminton. I won't say which one. But these experiences weren't just fun, they built confidence, encouraging healthy habits and created lifelong memories. If we lose this centre, future generations will lose the same opportunities. Madam Mayor, the facts are clear. Young people today are struggling, mental health challenges are rising, and physical activity is a proven way of help. Yet, instead of supporting them, this administration has made exercise less accessible by raising the prices for the youth, once again failing our young people. Selling off this facility might bring short-term funds, but in the long run, it will lead to higher NHS costs and decline in public well-being, an entirely false economy. Time and time again, this administration has failed to manage community assets effectively. Selling them off is not leadership, it's a failure of vision. Investing in our leisure facilities is invested in our community, our health and our economy. The Local Government Association has reported that for every £1 spent on community sport and physical activity, almost £4 is generated in return for the economy. Some might argue that this is about financial sustainability, but if that was the case, why hasn't the Council explored alternative models? Several West Midland councils successfully manage their own leisure facilities. City of Wolverhampton operates WV Active Adderley, offering athletics, cycling and shooting amenities. Sandwell Council runs its own Sandwell Aquatic Centre, a Commonwealth venue with an Olympic-sized pool and fitness facilities. Solihull Council oversees Meriden Park, providing valuable outdoor recreational spaces. These councils have shown that with the right leadership, high-quality, accessible leisures can be sustained and thrived. Let's be clear, this decision is short-sighted, damaging and completely avoidable. At this rate, if the administration continues down this path, we'll soon be charged for walking in the park if they haven't solved that already. I urge this council to listen to the people of Dudley. These centres are not just buildings, they're lifelines for many. Stop selling off community assets, invest in our community and show that the council truly serves the people that it represents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mogul. We are now just on the verge of the 30 minutes, but fair enough. Oh, fair enough. I was going to suggest a little bit longer, but fair enough. It's in your hands. You make this. I am just about to put it to the members of the council. The members of the council decide whether we close debate, not me, and not you either. Right. Can I just say, we'll do a proper official vote, please, so we can all see. So the proposition is, do we stop the debate now? If the answer is yes, we will take no more speakers and we'll go back to the main motion, go back to the right of reply and then vote. Those who wish the debate to continue will vote no, and others will abstain. So if you want to keep the debate going, vote no. If you want it to end, vote yes. Well, I can clearly see that we are not going to close this debate and we're going to continue. I now call on Councillor Ryan Priest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This evening I'll proudly be supporting this motion, just as my group has stood firmly behind this campaign from the very beginning. The Liberal Democrat group has been unwavering in its commitment, ensuring that when closures were floated, we were the voices that kept them out of the budget proposals. Leisure centres are not about turning a profit. They were built to serve every resident, every child, every family, giving them a chance to stay healthy, active and engaged. The 3 leisure centres in our borough, along with the Dell running track, are not just bricks and mortar, they're the beating heart of our communities. And it's because of that that I'm pleased to support this motion unamended. And while I question why it has taken just so long for the Labour group to come on board, and I question why they couldn't make their mind up, whether they wanted to show a display of collaboration and have this motion seconded by the Liberal Democrat group, And if I was conspiratorial, I may question why what is a well-written motion ends with such weak demands of the council, effectively confirming that privatisation is bad, but ultimately leaving the decision to be made by the Conservative cabinet which they installed. But despite this, I will vote for the motion as it is written, as we agreed with the campaign group in the spirit of collaboration. Now, I remember going to the Crystal Splash Pool with my friends, learning to swim at Haleslow, and these pools where countless children across Dudley learn a vital and life-saving skill. But if privatisation drives up prices, those who need these facilities will be the most shut out. For many families, free holiday swims provide a crucial opportunity to keep their children active, safe and engaged. Yet under a profit-driven operator, these lifelines could disappear. We cannot allow that to happen. That is the fundamental difference between a council-run service and a privately run one. A council-run leisure centre exists to serve its community, keeping prices affordable, reinvesting income into services and ensuring that no one is excluded. A privately run model, however, prioritises profit. It leads to higher fees, cuts to essential services, and reduced access for those who need it most. If we allow these facilities to fall into private hands, they risk becoming luxuries, rather than the vital community assets that they were intended to be. We must keep DB Leisure Council run to safeguard these vital community hubs and ensure they continue to be places of health, happiness, and unity for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Priest. I took it that when you all voted that you wanted the debate to continue, that you were agreeing that we extend it outside the 30 minutes, which we normally have to do with petitions. Do I take it that that's what you were agreeing to do? Right. I am... Right, okay. So I'll put to the vote then. I'm putting the vote that we actually extend this further than the 30 minutes, because I can do that. So it's up to you now, as councillors, to decide, do we extend it? I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. Can I have best of order, please? Thank you. Can I just say that all the speakers, I can only see one speaker from the leader of the council, the only one. Oh, and Councillor Atkins. So what I intend to do is to even it out. I will take one more speaker who has indicated, that's Councillor Sahota, and then I will take Councillor Atkins and Councillor Harley, and that will be the end of the time, and then we go for the right of reply. Is that agreed? Okay, fair enough. I am done. Can I? Well, you're not, Councillor Kesey, you're not on the list to speak. Can I just, before we go into the usual argy-bargy and people talking, let's get a few things straight. I am the conscience of this council, point 5 of why I'm here. So I am actually the one who's going to make this decision, because I am the conscience, and I believe 2 more speakers, the next 2 are Councillor Sahota and Councillor Baton, and then I will finish, sorry, Councillor, that's right, and then I'll have Councillor Atkins and Councillor Harley, and then we will go to the vote, because I need to prove that we've had an even, equal debate. Is that agreed? Thank you. Unfortunately, on this, I think you'll find you're in the minority. That's up to you. I could be really cruel and say that'll teach you to be independent, but I'm not going to. Right. I am now going to call on Councillor Palm. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I'm now being... I can't just do it on saying it's going to happen, we need to take a vote. So those of you who would like us to change the finishing time from 30 minutes to by 20 minutes, please indicate yes. Those of you who do not, vote no. And if you can't make your mind up, vote yellow. Right, all those who would like to extend so that we can have an equal debate, please indicate yes. Those who want to stop the debate, vote no. Right. I think it's quite emphatic that we are going to extend for another 20 minutes to ensure that we can have an equal debate. So I now call on Councillor Sahota.
Is it on?
No.
Support the motion put forward by my fellow colleague, Councillor Ellen Cobb, and stand firm with the petitioners represented here by Tony Barnsley. But this issue is about all Dudley residents, including those who couldn't sign the petition. I know that they stand with the petitioners, with our communities, and are against this proposal. Our 3 remaining leisure centres and the Dell Stadium are more than just buildings, they are the beating hearts of our communities, similar to Keysey. They provide vital well-being and leisure benefits for the people of Dudley, yet instead of building on these assets, this council is now looking to hand them over to the private sector. Madam Mayor, let's be crystal clear. It is not the leisure centres that have failed, but the Tory Council's management team. We have seen a pattern of poor commercial decisions by this Tory Council. Take the Bistro Bar fiasco, 1.5 million pounds lost. We even had the director tasked with making council services more commercially viable. What did that achieve? Nothing. And now, instead of taking ownership of their own mess, this council wants to believe that outsourcing is the only way forward. On this side of the chamber, we are saying no, no, no. As Councillor Cobb said in her speech, this council has already invested over £31 million into our leisure assets. Yet because of the failure to increase the revenue and improve financial performance, they are now being handed over to the private sector, which obviously is not going to happen, thank God. Further proof of their failings. Now let's look at beyond Dudley, not too far away in Sandwell, and see the contrasting leisure landscape just here. Sandwell has just secured 20 million to revamp Hayden Leisure Centre. In Dudley, we have secured zilch for our community centres from public funding. Sandwell has leisure centres in each of its 6 towns, including the world-class Sandwell Aquatic Centre, which hosted the Commonwealth Games. Sandwell has invested in modern purpose-built centres for the residents. What is Sandwell doing right that Dudley isn't? Okay? Take Halzone Leisure Centre. It plays a crucial role in our communities. Instead of giving up and selling out, we should be building on that recent investment to secure additional external funding and ensure that these facilities remain in public assets, not private machines. Only today, I spoke to Helen Martin today and asking why can't the revised Levelling Up Fund also include the provision to see what we can do with the leisure centre. Halzone is also in the regeneration corridor, so we could also have discussions with the West Midlands Combined Authority on there. Madam Mayor, our residents deserve better than the easy option of outsourcing. We will fight for these communities and ensure that the public sector remains with the leisure centres. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sahota. Call on Councillor Atkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've heard of not letting the truth stand in the way of a good story, and wow, that is one hell of a good story being told on that side of the chamber. We're going to have to fact check some of this, to be honest. So, as I said in my amendment speech, privatisation, outsourcing. Privatisation means that we sell off the buildings and all the amenities. Outsourcing means we don't do that. We can't afford to retain them with the current subsidy, £2.4 million, and so we are exploring options to reduce costs whilst maintaining all the leisure centres. We aren't selling off our leisure centres. They are in the budget for the next 5 years. I can't say that any more clearer. We are not selling them off. Staff terms and conditions are protected by 2P at the point of transfer. If services were outsourced, the prices paid by residents will be managed through the detailed specification and subsequent contract management. Any new operator would have to submit proposed proposed prices for each year, and anything above the CPI, which, by the way, is the lowest inflammatory measure, has to be agreed by both the council and any provider. And now, of course, outsourcing will only be considered if there is a financial benefit to the council. And while we're talking about it, 33% of councils, only 33% of councils nationally deliver leisure services in-house. Councillor Sahota, what did Sandwell do so well? They outsourced. 7 to Sandwell Leisure Centre, Sandwell Leisure Trust, and 1 to Places Leisure. Wolverhampton, mostly outsourced. Sandwell, outsourced. Solihull, outsourced. Birmingham, some outsourced, some delivered in-house. Wyre Forest, outsourced. Coventry, outsourced. Worcestershire, outsourced. Herefordshire, outsourced. I wonder what they're all doing right. And also, we talk about the social proposals. We included key social proposals, and they are core to the specification contained within the tender. Pricing concessions. Provide social and voluntary groups access to the space. Providing safe spaces. Tackling health inequalities. Working with partners. Support raising of attainment in sports. Facilitate skills development. All of these are included in the specific proposals to the tender. And also, Madam Mayor, it's really difficult to stop the tendering process because it completed on Friday. So it's all been completed. They are now going to be reviewed by the officers, ready for scrutiny. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins. I call on Councillor Bayton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And we all know and accept that leisure centres receive a significant council subsidy, and that in officer speak, they need to wash their face in the current economic climate. I don't disagree with that at all. But while we are fact checking, if I can just remind Councillor Atkins that 2P in terms of staff is only relevant and it only protects at the point of transfer. So whilst, yes, any council staff would be subject to 2P, the protection is only there at the point of transfer, and they can enter into variations as soon as they choose. Back in October, the Environment and Regeneration Select Committee had a presentation on the leisure centres, and we put a question to the then head of procurement of what is Plan B. All we were presented with was the option at that point of transfer of procurement. I'm still waiting for Plan B. We were promised a Plan B, and I'm still waiting for it. I've seen nothing. And yet, this didn't need to be like this. There were certain investments that could have been made going back in history. We know it took the council 2 years to put PV panels on Duncan Edwards, which would have been a continual ongoing saving. We know that grant funding was rejected for Hales Owen Leisure Centre, when again, long term would have had a positive impact on the financial situation. The answer has been, from this council, to make leisure centres economically viable, has been let's hike car parking charges, which in Dudley has meant people have left the leisure centre and increased user subscriptions. We have a commercial team. What actually have they been working on in terms of making the leisure centres in Dudley viable? What has been done to generate income and reduce running costs? When Councillor Aston and I visited services in London with our head of commercial, we actually saw leisure centres that generated income through renting spaces to other services, such as health, such as commercial activity like banking services. What has been done by this council to explore those opportunities? Other organisations, as I say, such as health, people were renting office space. They were a proper community hub that is possible to do. So I support the motion to end, well, you've said we can't end the current procurement because it's already ended, but I would suggest that when this does come back into scrutiny, that actually a proper job of scrutiny is able to be undertaken. And when councillors ask for reports back, when we ask for further information, that we're actually given that. And that will give the opportunity, I would hope, for the council to actually explore the opportunities to raise funds, to how we generate income, and not to put the burden on either outsourcing or on residents. And most importantly, to maintain leisure centres within Dudley Council's public ownership.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Bayton. The last speaker will be Councillor Harley, then there'll be the right of reply to Councillor Cobb, and that will be the 20 minutes. Councillor Harley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I'll start off once again with Councillor Ali. I don't know if he actually noticed tonight, but the Lib Dems actually voted with you. They didn't vote against you tonight on this particular measure. Tracy Wood, there's a name from the past. Why is that name important, Madam Mayor?
Oh, she did a great petition and I support it.
She did indeed, Madam Mayor, one that this side of the chamber supported. And why did we support? Because the party opposite, not when they were in opposition, when they were able to make decisions. We're proposing to close not one leisure centre, Madam Mayor, but two. Halsowin and Stourbridge, and the proposal was from officers to build a brand new one near Lye.
Councillor Harley, I am the conscience. Point of order, not the truth.
It is not. It is not. It is not, Madam Mayor. It is not. It's a proposal by officers, and then because of Miss Wood and others who ran a fantastic campaign, that proposal was knocked back. And then the proposal...
Order. That is simply untrue. Now, if you wish to give me 5 minutes after Councillor Harley, I'm more than prepared to put the record straight.
I'll continue, Madam Mayor. The proposal by officers was, and I suggest you listen, the proposal by officers was to close two leisure centres and build another one. Before that gained momentum and went to Cabinet, there was a campaign led by Tracy Wood, which this side of the chamber supported, and that idea was quickly buried. And in the consequences of formulating, I believe, the 2017 budget, Madam Mayor, the proposal was put there to build the Duncan Edwards Leisure Centre. You want to dispute the facts? Have a damn good memory, Councillor Lowe. Madam Mayor, what is the point of order? Name it.
Stop. I will...
Name it. Name it or sit
He's
down.
not going to. I was going to say, I was there, I was present. It was Sport England who said, have two leisure centres. It was never anything that we said. But it's water under the bridge. What we should be talking about now is the motion in front of you. Please continue.
It is indeed water under the bridge, Madam Mayor, and it was this side of the chamber that actually completed the new Duncan Edwards Leisure Centre. It's this side of the chamber that put forward a budget just last week, last Monday, that secures the future of leisure centres for the next 5 years. Now, had the opposition had control, but clearly they didn't have the stomach to try and sort out the budget issues here, then I believe leisure centres and libraries would have closed. And we'll take no lessons and no crocodile tears from the members opposite. Because when they are in control, they don't do as they say in opposition. There was a proposal to build on Greenbelt in Halsowin, Madam Mayor, when they were in control. You know, they farmed out the libraries, as Councillor Priest has alluded to. So now they are trying to rewrite history. The libraries were farmed out to another company other than Dudley MBC under the Labour control. Then we have, Madam Mayor, about proper scrutiny. Proper scrutiny. Well, this side of the chamber and this leader gives a commitment, and the motion itself is quite weak. Again, Councillor Priest is quite right. The recommendations are weak. It will be this cabinet that makes that decision that comes to full council. But, Madam Mayor, part of those recommendations that we'll make is that there is a committee of senior members on this side, senior officers, and I extend that invitation to senior members of the Labour group and the Liberal Democrats to work together to find a good way forward to secure 3 leisure centres and the Dell Stadium, either within council ownership or some other format that secures their use for our residents. And at the end of the day, Madam Mayor, what is this argument about? Is it securing 3 leisure centres on the Dell Stadium, or keeping their trade union friends happy? And my final word, Madam Mayor, Councillor Sahota says we should build on the success of Hal's Owen Leisure Centre. If they had their way and their budget, Madam Mayor, in the next few years, they would be building on it.
Oh, right. Well, thank you, Councillor Harley, for that. You have 4 minutes to exercise your right of reply, Councillor Cobb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be quite quick. So I'd just firstly like to thank my fellow councillors for speaking so passionately this evening in support of this motion. I think residents of the borough tonight will be really proud with how this evening has gone. Unfortunately, they will not be proud of how they have heard the leader of the council speak tonight. Frankly, that speech was disgusting. To blatantly lie in a full council meeting is completely out of order. So without further delay, I'd like to urge members of the council once again to support this motion to keep DB Leisure public. Thank you.
So I put it to you, the motion unamended. Please show, are we ready to vote? So we're on the motion unamended. All those in favour vote yes, all those against no, and abstentions. Abstention. I've got one person hasn't. Oh, there we go. The vote is carried. The motion is carried. Thank you, everybody. If people in the public, Gary, feel that they ought to leave now, please, if you want to, you can, but please go quietly. Thank you very much. Right, off we go. Now call on the motion on West Midlands Pension Fund to make ethical investments. Just to remind you that the under council procedure rule 12.5, the maximum time allowed to deal with the notice of motion is 30 minutes. So we've gone from being in the realms of a petition, we're now back to our usual 30 minutes that when we deal with motions. So I now call on, if the notice of, oh, that's right. So I call now on Councillor Andrew Promers to move the motion in his name and as set out in the agenda. And it's seconded by?
Councillor Ahmed.
Oh, Asif Ahmed.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That would be a for the book.
They've learned from you. Councillor Tromans. Oh, Councillor Tromans.
Madam Mayor, I thank you for calling me to speak for this to bring forward this motion, which is close to my heart. Before I move to the motion, I want to call for a calm, civil, but robust debate. Let's hear each other's views and engage respectfully. The raucous scenes in this chamber last Monday should shame us all, and I apologise for my part in that. Moving swiftly on, Madam Mayor, 340,000 public sector workers with 340,000 public sector workers as members drawn from across our region and a funding pot of around 21 billion, the West Midlands Pension Fund is one of the largest of its kind. A report published last July showed that the fund currently invests over £231 million in companies which profit from arms sales. Some of those weapons are then used by regimes across the world which do not respect international law or human rights. We have other options. We don't need to invest in the instruments of war or in fossil fuels which are burning our planet. This fund can and should be an agent of change, but it will only become so if we have a diversity of thought at the top table. The motion you have in front of you seeks to build on another divestment motion passed by this council in 2019, although I'm not overly hopeful of such unanimous backing tonight. Our planet has a finite supply of fossil fuels. The World Coal Association estimates that we have around 150 years of coal left to use at the current rate, and it will become more expensive to extract over time. We have our reliance on natural gas puts us at the mercy of Putin. Putting our money into domestic renewable energy supply is a sound investment. Similarly, we can choose to invest in other portfolios, such as social housing, instead of the bombs which are dropped on civilian populations in more troubled parts of our world. The West Midlands Pension Fund is administered by the City of Wolverhampton Council. 10 of their councillors sit on the committee, with only 1 from each of the other 6 authorities. This motion is about empowering our representative to challenge the status quo, suggest new ideas, and to do so with the support of our near neighbours in Sandwell, who last week passed a very similar motion. I would like to congratulate my friends, Councillors Jeffcoat and Tipper, for their successful motion last week. Madam Mayor, I can assure you I have neither the looks or the singing voice of Timothy Chalamet, who wonderfully portrayed Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown, although he missed out on some Oscars. But I can simply say that the times are a-changing, and it's time that we do things differently at the West Midlands Pension Fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tromans. I call on Councillor Asif Ahmed to second.
Seconded, Madam Mayor, and if you allow me the opportunity to speak as well. Thank you. Firstly, I just want to start off by thanking you for the late start this evening and allowing myself and other colleagues who were fasting to break their fast. And it was nice to see other colleagues there who weren't fasting to join us as well. So thank you very much for that. Going on to the motion, Councillor Trollman spoke very well. I think he put forward both his feelings, emotions, which I equally share. I want to address a few points, however, which I think there's some, over recent days and weeks, I've heard some misconceptions around the motion and what it's asking for. So I'd like to focus my contribution on that if possible, please. So firstly, just to clarify, there's absolutely no hidden agenda. I know that word's been used. The motion is very clear. What's in black and white before you is exactly what the motion's asking for. So what we're looking for is divestment from fossil fuels and arms sales for a more eco-friendly and ethical investment, which is what we would like for the West Midlands Pension Fund. Now, I know a lot of people would argue that it's not possible, you know, to always invest ethically. I would, however, disagree with that. And the reason I would disagree with that is whilst I may not have a degree in finance or economics, I have over years studied the financial and stock market and actively trade within the markets. And I can say that the markets do allow opportunities for people with different religious and ethical beliefs to invest in opportunities which meet those requirements. I think the only thing is if the people investing go out of their way to look for those opportunities, and that's exactly what this motion is asking us to do. The other thing is, you know, some people believe that we've got absolutely no, and it's right as well, that we've got no control over the West Midlands Pension Fund as a local authority. We can't dictate what they do. I completely agree with that. However, what we do have as a council is a voice. And I genuinely believe that any opportunity that we have to express our opinions, especially on matters which affect not just our locals, residents, but also you know, the world, especially when we talk about arms trade, then it's important that we raise our voice. In terms of the costs of the council, absolutely none. The only time consumption will be the requirement for the Chief Executive to write to the West Midlands Pension Fund, and to be honest, 80% of what we would expect to be within that communication is already here before you. So there's absolutely no financial costs at all to the council, which and over the last few months has been absolutely, one of the main things that we've been looking into. So on that basis, I can't see what we've got to lose. The other thing I would like to mention also is that I know this is quite far-fetched, but I did hear the West Midlands Pension Fund being mentioned in the same paragraph as our nation's defence budget. Just to clarify, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the defence budget. So anyone who, there was a couple of people who mentioned that. So I just wanted to clarify, it's got absolutely nothing to do with the security of our nation, nothing to do with the defence budget. So just to clarify, I would urge all my colleagues to support this motion and join other local authorities such as Sandwell and others across the country who are calling for a more ethical and eco-friendly approach to investment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. I call on Councillor Harley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very, very short contribution. This is an important issue to some. It's an emotive issue. It's a motion I can't personally support. However, I recognise the reasons why others would, and therefore my group will have a free vote on this issue. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harley. Councillor Priest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have a responsibility to the people we serve, to the communities we represent, and to the generations who will live with the choices that we make. Right now, the West Midlands Pension Fund invests millions in industries that cause harm. Fossil fuel companies that accelerate climate breakdown, arms manufacturers that profit from conflicts devastating places like Palestine, Israel, Yemen, and Sudan. We cannot turn away from that suffering. We cannot look at the families mourning their loved ones and the communities left in ruin and pretend that we have no role to play. Where our money goes, so too does our moral responsibility. And we cannot speak of peace while investing in weapons of war. We cannot claim to be tackling climate change while funding the industries that drive it. Hundreds of thousands of people in our region contribute to this pension fund with trust. Trust that their hard-earned savings will be invested wisely, that their money will be used to build a better future, not fuel destruction. And it's for us to honour that trust. The financial world is shifting, and we must shift with it. Fossil fuels are no longer the stable investment that they once were. Oil and gas reserves are becoming stranded assets, their long-term viability in question. Renewables are now outcompeting fossil fuels on cost, and governments worldwide are setting stricter regulations to meet climate targets. Funds that exclude fossil fuels and arms have been outperforming traditional portfolios, proving that responsible investment does not mean sacrificing returns. We have the opportunity to get ahead of the curve, to invest in growth sectors that will define the next century rather than clinging to the sectors of the past. This is about future-proofing our investments, protecting the pensions of our workers and ensuring financial security built on industries that will thrive, not decline. The world is changing and our investments must change with it. It's not about ethics, it's about economics. Coal and oil are not the industries of tomorrow. Weapons manufacturers are not safe long-term investments. So I today welcome this motion by Councillor Tromans and Councillor Ahmed. It offers a clear time-bound commitment to begin shifting investments away from fossil fuels and arms, a commitment to transparency so that workers know that where their money is going. A commitment to reinvesting in industries that create rather than destroy. We have a responsibility, whether ending conflict or climate change, to do all we can to ensure that the planet that we leave behind is safer than the planet that we inherited. And when future generations look back, they will not just ask what choices we had, they will ask what choices that we made. And I hope today we can make the right one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Priest. I call on Councillor Ali.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I stand to speak in support of this motion. Every financial decision is a moral one, and as elected representatives, we have a duty to ensure that our investments align with ethical principles and do not contradict our values. There is no harm in constructive challenge, and the first step, I believe, is to ask where are investments being made. Are our investments supporting industries that exploit people and harm the planet? Or are they being used to build a fairer, more sustainable future? Madam Mayor, for some time now, I have been raising this matter through the Audit and Standards Committee. Last year in July, I raised this very question, and more recently in January, I sought further assurance that our investments are being made ethically. There is a growing level of public unease about how their money is used, and the Council and the West Midlands Pension Fund must be able to offer a clear and accountable explanation. Government contracts, business supply chains, and individual procurement decisions all shape our economies and our societies. We must take every possible step to ensure that the goods and services that are purchased align with our values, maximising benefits while minimising harm to both people and the planet. Madam Mayor, we must commit to ethical investment and procurement policies that uphold our values and genuinely serve our communities. By doing this, we are making a commitment to fairness, to responsibility, and to building a sustainable, just, and peaceful future for all. Madam Mayor, we should also be tasking our representative on the West Midlands Pensions Fund, Councillor Clark, to advocate the feelings of this chamber and the views of this motion when he next attends the board, if he is the member still there. Thank you, Madam Mayor. If he isn't, then whoever our member is, maybe they could relay our sentiments, our views and comments to the next Pensions Board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. I call on Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's nice to finally have an independent voice heard within the chamber, I think. All this motion seems to be asking for is to write a simple letter to ask people to use ethics. Like, we should all be in favour of ethical stuff, yeah? So, you know, we should, I would hope that nobody within this chamber would be happy to make the money off the back of people that were murdered during war crimes or genocide. So I think writing a simple letter to ask for something is something that should happen.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I call on Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm getting up this evening just to speak in favour of this motion. Firstly, to congratulate and thank Councillor Tromans for a well-worded motion and spoke to it extremely well, and also to Councillor C for seconding that motion. Now, for ourselves, Madam Mayor, what we need to actually look at are the words, and I welcome Councillor Harley's point that it's a free vote on the Conservative Party benches. I absolutely welcome that. And I think, as Councillor Troman has outlined when he was moving the motion, this council has debated something similar to this back in 2019. And whilst there's potential flaws within this, I absolutely agree with Councillor Troman, that builds upon the position of 2019 and takes it in there. Now, Madam Mayor, I'm in a very fortunate position in the my employer has had a ethical pension policy for the 20 years I've been a member of it. It gets updated each year, and I can proudly walk down the street, turn my television on, and know when that I'm enjoying the fruits of my labour in a few years to come, that my pension will have not been as a result on the bombs that I see being placed upon the heads of innocent people. And I'm proud of that because it's a moral base. And then we look at the environmental impact of that. And I'm reminded, actually, that I'm in a fortunate, privileged position of being in a pension that only ethically involves with regard to green fossil fuels. And whilst I may have to ask some questions as to whether that investment includes Tesla, and I'll probably have to go and seek clarification over the weeks and months over that, at least I know that they are environmentally friendly. And I think the other point the Councillor Seif made, which was extremely well made, is this motion actually doesn't cost us anything within this council chamber. It comes down to that basis of values. And going back to Councillor Harley's point, I recognise the emotive feelings. I'm sure that that's replicated around the council chamber, but certainly from my point of view, I have no hesitation in supporting this motion. It clarifies the situation from 2019 and, importantly, I think, as Councillor Troman has outlined, builds on that and makes it stronger. So I urge Council to support, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. And I call on Councillor Eccles.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I fully support the principle and the spirit of this motion, but I did just have to point out that following similar motions and petitions by other councils over the past 12 months, West Midlands Pension Fund did make a statement on aerospace and defence in June 2024. Now, I'm not going to defend that statement and say it was robust enough to reassure us that WMPF are divesting away, but I am reassured that they have set out engagement themes across their portfolio, which include climate change and net zero, social equality, which covers human rights, and aerospace and defence. So I think adding our voice to this will only make those calls stronger, and I hope that our representative to the pension fund will pass that along. But it would be wrong of me to not raise the concern that I do have that currently West Midlands Pension Fund are failing to pay out to their members on time and in full, following an upgrade to their IT systems in April last year, which they're still blaming as the cause. So I would not like to see any further delays to members being paid out, but given that this is just a simple letter to them, I would hope that would not be the case, but it was something that I had to put on record, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I know it didn't, but she's just finished. Thank you, Councillor Eccles. Councillor Baton.
Madam Mayor, I think there's been an issue with the microphones. I think there's been an issue with the microphone system because actually Councillor Casey was showing as the next speaker and you call Councillor Lowe. So if you want to take Councillor Casey next and then I'll come in.
I agree with you. That's exactly what happened. Councillor Casey was there and he disappeared. I don't know why. And then he's come back now later down the line. So I'll take Councillor Thorne next.
It's on there. Okay. Sorry, I am the representative. Thank you. Let me speak, Madam Mayor. I'm the representative for the West Midlands Pension Fund for Dudley, not Councillor Clark. Speak louder. Sorry. Okay. I currently sit on there, and the pensions team are very professional in their approach. As Councillor Troman has said, there's 340,000 members on this scheme. Okay. Looking at the ethics, they have got a statement, I can read it out, on their role and positioning. Our global investment approach is driven by our, fiduciary duty to meet members' benefits. We serve members across the region without political bias, and political views do not influence our investments and assessment allocation decisions. We recognise our role as global investors in influencing company behaviour and outcomes while being aware of our limitations. As part of the broader human rights strategy, our stewardship partners have engaged with several companies on humanitarian and human rights issues in conflict zones. Engagement has focused on understanding companies' management of human rights risks, ensuring adherence to international standards and promoting policy views. We understand that positive change takes time, but believe the long-term investment engagement leads to better outcomes. One of these companies they deal with are the local authority pension fund forums. And they acknowledge the operational, reputational, legal and financial risks that companies face in conflict-affected and high-risk areas across the globe. Such areas often experience severe human rights violations. The LAPFF works with companies to ensure they implement rigorous processes to prevent and mitigate harm, whilst also reducing financial risks for both the companies and, most importantly, the investors. We have to remember that this is people's lives and futures we are talking about. Members who put their faith and futures in the hands of the West Midlands Pension Fund to provide the best possible return for them to be able to retire with financial security, and at the time they still have their health and time on their side to enjoy their retirements. Bear that in mind, people. Bear that in mind, people. These are people's futures. I should have retired last year and I can't because my pension was stiffed. I'm probably the worst person to have been put on this forum, but I'm there. So I cannot support it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I've heard it moved and
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I've heard it moved and seconded that we now, the question now be put. So I'm going to ask you, because just to point out, we have had a lot of contributions. I've tried to make it even. Councillor Casey would have been next. But there we go. So I'm asking you to vote. All those in favour of moving to the main question, in other words, we haven't voted yet. All those in favour of all those in favour who want to stop the debate and move to the question. That's what we're doing. So, and those who are against, who would like to hear more speeches, you say no. And if you don't care, you vote yellow. So if you want to move to the question and it being put, now's the moment to vote. It's overwhelming. We will now move to the vote. So I now call on Councillor Councillor Tromans to his right of reply.
Right. Well, I would have liked to have seconded the last motion, but I'll just have to make do with this right to reply. I want to thank a few people. First of all, my brother, Asif Ahmed, for his wonderful speech and all of his support for this motion. Councillors Lowe, Ali, Priest, Edwards, Eccles, and Councillor Thorne. Thank you for providing a balanced debate, a reasonable debate. I think that this has been a good discussion, and I'm looking forward to see the results of the vote. I'm no expert in pension funds. I'm not an actuary. If there are any actuaries in here, please do make yourself known. But I think the point of this motion is to have challenge and robust debate at the top table of the West Midlands Pension Fund. And we're not going to decide what happens and how people's monies are invested. And I respect the points that Councillor Thorne has raised about people's funds going up and down. But it is simply just to have that debate at the room where the decision is made. So with no further ado, I move forward to the vote, and thank you all.
Thank you, Councillor Tromans. So I now put the question to you, the motion put in the name of Councillor Tromans. All those in favour, please vote. All those against, please vote. And those who wish to abstain. Can't add it up. Is that a... Oh, I need one more vote. Somebody has not voted. But you need to abstain. You're not going to abstain? Okay. This motion is carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Right, we now move to the, in the name of, I think is it the leader moving this? Yes, all right. It's the composition of membership of committees, and I call on the leader to move.
Members of the council.
Could members of the public gallery stop talking, please? Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, since this report was issued, Councillor Andrew Tromans has joined the Liberal Democrat group. The political balance of the council, as referred to in paragraph 5 of the report, is now amended to Conservative Group 35, Labour Group 31, Lib Dems 4 and Independents 2. This does not, however, affect the allocation of committee seats as referred to in the report. Therefore, in line with paragraph 8 of the report, I move the following change to the composition of committees. 1, that Councillor Adam Davis be appointed to the Fit for the Future Council Sustainability Select Committee in place of Councillor Steve Edwards. 2, that Councillor Adam Davis be appointed as the Chair of the Fit for the Future Council Sustainability Select Committee for the remainder of this municipal year. And 3, that the Interim Lead for Law and Governance, in consultation with the group leaders, be authorised to make any of the necessary or consequential changes to the membership of committees. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by?
Formally seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Does anybody wish to make a contribution? I've got Councillor Priest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish to move an amendment to this that would, in effect, nominate Councillor Stafford for Chair of Fit for Future, but leave the rest as it is written. I would point out that just a few months ago, we had discussion in the Chamber about the importance of scrutiny remaining opposition there. Those are principles that I think we should stick by, and I hope people would support Councillor Stafford's nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Priest. Who's seconding this? Thank you, Councillor Tromans. So we have an amendment in front of us from the floor. It's a shame it didn't come in written form before, but I'll let you off, as that's what the Constitution says you can do. Councillor Adam Davis is not appointed as the chair, but Councillor Ethan Stafford. Anybody wish to speak to? We're on an amendment now. On the amendment, anybody wish to speak to the amendment? Nobody. I'll put the amendment to the. Sorry, Councillor, I hadn't seen your name. Councillor Kesey, and then Councillor Edwards.
Is it me? Yeah. Yeah.
On the amendment, who's speaking?
Steve, I wanted to speak on the main motion, but
Fair enough.
things stayed on.
Councillor Edwards, are you speaking on the amendment? Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, really. Obviously, Councillor Ryan, go on, tell me. Priest is right. I also agree that it should be people from the opposition who are chairs and vice chairs of scrutiny. So just to back up Councillor Priest's observation, just to note that I am from the opposition.
Okay. I've got Councillor Lowe next, who would like to speak on the amendment.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I am speaking on the amendment, and I'm going to amend the amendment in order for common sense to prevail. Now, there's one meeting of the Fit for the Future committee going on, and what the discussion appears to be moving us onto is the opposition. So I would simply delete the word Councillor Ethan Stanfield, insert the word Steve Edwards, and in response to that, the Labour group will stand one of our candidates down and to allow the independent chair to remain in place for the rest of this municipal year.
I don't think you can really amend an amendment. You can have two amendments open at the same time for discussion, but where we go to vote, yes, you can't amend an amendment. Sorry.
Propose it as an amendment.
Right, so I've heard it proposed, so that's an amendment after this one. So we vote on the first amendment, which is that Councillor Ethan Stafford be appointed as the chair of the Fit for the Future Council Sustainability Committee. Anybody wish to speak on that? So I put to the vote then the amendment in the name of Councillor Priest. But you have to remember that the right of reply remains with the leader of the council. Would you like to exercise your right of reply? Okay, right. Right, so we're on the amendment. All those in favour, please vote. Yes, are we ready? All those against, vote against. Crikey, that was quick. Right, I think that's pretty safe to say that the amendment in the name of Councillor Priest has fallen. So we now move to the amendment in the name of Councillor Lowe. Could you remind me what your amendment is, please?
Absolutely. I didn't make a note of it, so I'm trying to remember it on my feet, Madam Mayor. But it was actually that in order to maintain status quo and independence, does Steve Edwards continue as chair for the future, and we will concede one of the Labour Party places on that committee.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak? Formally, thank you. Anybody wish to speak to this amendment? Right, we will move to the vote. Do you want to exercise? No, you don't want to exercise. I have to ask. All right, all those in favour, vote yes. Those against, vote no. And you can't be bothered, vote yellow. Two people not voted. Right, I'm going to close the vote. You've had plenty of time. That amendment was carried. I will now move to the main motion as amended. Anybody wish to speak to the main motion amended? Nope, nobody wants to. So I now return to the Leader of the Council. Be all right to reply? Okay. Right, so I put to you the whole motion as amended. All those in favour, please show. Takes a bit of time. I think I don't are we going to have a vote down there? No? Okay. All right. It's carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. We now move on to questions from members under Council Procedure Rule 11. In line with Council Procedure rules, the question time will involve a 30-minute time limit, so that is till 9:15. The first three questions to be offered to the main opposition leader, that's you, Councillor Lowe. Other members will then be invited to ask questions. Councillor Priest, I do intend to turn to you after the three questions from Councillor Lowe. Other members will then be invited to ask questions. If the 30 minutes time limit is reached, any further questions can be submitted in writing. The usual process is for 2 minutes per question, and any supplementary question will apply. So, Councillor Lowe, over to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. In line with normal established procedure, I'm handing my three questions out. Firstly, because I know that Councillor Casey wanted to speak on the last debate, so Kieran will go first, followed by Matt Cook, followed by Keith Archer. It's been a long couple of weeks, Madam Mayor, please forgive me.
He's telling me. So, Councillor Casey? Councillor Casey, are you asking the question? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question's for the Leader of the Council. What I wanted to ask him was, why did he feel that it was appropriate to announce the freeze in parking charges on the radio last Wednesday and not in this council chamber last Monday night? And given that everything we heard from Councillor Clark this time last week about the finances of this council, did he agree with him? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Casey. The Leader?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's probably the easiest question I'm ever going to have to answer in this position. Pure and simple, Councillor Ali droned on for far too long and we ran out of time and the Mayor called a halt to the meeting. Otherwise, Madam Mayor, I would have announced it last Monday, loud and proud, that parking charges under this administration are frozen until March 2030. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
That was my fault then. Councillor Casey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, thanks, Councillor Harley, for reminding us the meeting last week was a short one. We were only here for 4 hours. So I do understand why you were out of time. The supplementary question I'd like to ask Councillor Harley, Madam Mayor, is does he really expect residents of this borough and businesses in places like Dudley Town Centre to be grateful for a freeze in the current prices that they already think are crippling town centres like Dudley, Halesowen and Stourbridge? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Harley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, unlike the politicians opposite, we don't take the electorate for granted. We don't think they should be grateful. We have to work hard for every single vote that this side of the chamber gets. And those measures introduced, a 5-year freeze on car parking charges, Madam Mayor, I hope will help offload some of the pain and discomfort that traders and shoppers have felt since, unfortunately, we had to scrap the 2 hours free car parking. But let not the public forget, Madam Mayor, as part of that LGA improvement board, the Labour leadership at the time were chastising us for not moving faster on scrapping car parking charges. In fact, the criticism levelled at myself was, if we'd have done it 12 months before, we'd have raised an extra £1 million in revenue. So we'll take no lectures and no crocodile tears from the members opposite on car parking charges.
Thank you, Councillor Harley. I turn now to Councillor Archer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to address my question to the Cabinet Member for Children's Services. Sorry, you're going to be looking at my back while I'm doing this. Last Wednesday, I visited the Children's Services front door and MASH teams. I was warmly welcomed and had one-to-one conversations with various members of staff, from management through police, housing, education, health, social workers to front door staff. I was told that they have between 1,400 and 1,600 cases referred every month. I'm grateful to all of them for their time and honesty in telling me exactly how it is, warts and all. On reflecting on my visit, there's no doubt in my mind that we in Dudley are fortunate to have first-class, committed and dedicated staff who really care about the kids and cases that are referred to this service. But the consistent message coming through loud and clear from everyone I spoke to was that a lack of staff resource is causing great stress and strain within the team. These pressures are sadly leading to low morale and demotivation. Some staff told me that this situation meant they did not have time to attend training courses affecting their career development and ability to add extra knowledge and skills. The lack of enough staff, particularly social workers, has led to some staff leaving and some having health issues, so needing time off, which of course puts even more pressure on those staff who are left to carry on. More than one expressed concern that if this is not addressed, it could mean cases falling through cracks and that this could lead to a baby P type scenario. We probably all remember the baby P case. I suggest that this possibility and the risks involved should alarm all members in this chamber. I expressed my concerns to the service management and said that I would do all I could to make the council aware. So my question is the Cabinet Member aware of the concerns expressed? And if he is, what's being done to address them?
Thank you, Councillor Archer. Call on Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, of course we are. We take the matter very seriously indeed. I was aware of your visit down to Corbyn some days ago when you were down there. Some of the things that you've mentioned there are being addressed. It's an ongoing situation. I can give assurance to the whole of this council. We do take this matter very, very seriously, and I speak to the director very frequently about these, and I've had a meeting with her today, and as far as I'm concerned, it was very nice of you to go down there and show your face, exceptionally good. But as I say, all your concerns are being addressed. That's all I can address to Council, Madam Mayor, at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Archer.
And I appreciate that you will be taking it seriously, and you say the issues are being addressed. But it seems that there's no firm commitment, or I haven't heard a firm commitment here, to improve funding to recruit more staff. Madam Mayor, can I remind members of some of the areas where cuts to children's services and the voluntary sector were agreed at last Monday's full council? Family hubs, reduction in social care agency staff, adolescent safeguarding, family safeguarding, early help enablers posts removed, parenting coordinator posts removed, sessional youth worker posts removed, domestic abuse services reduced, Dudley CVS funding reduced, wellbeing support for carers reduced. So if you do agree with me, Councillor Stanley, that the budget cuts to children's services and the voluntary sector that were voted through by the controlling group with the help of the Lib Dems last Monday will put even more pressure on staff providing this essential service designed to help and support some of our most vulnerable and in need children. If there is no extra funding, and whether you agree with me or not on this, what more can be done to mitigate the risks identified?
Thank you, Councillor Archer. Councillor Stanley, right to reply.
Madam Mayor, I think I've already addressed the situation. The matter has been addressed, the matter has been looked to, and scaremongering will do nobody any good in this chamber whatsoever. This matter is in the hands of the department to deal with, and that's exactly what we are doing. If the gentleman has got anything he would like to discuss with me at another stage, I'm quite prepared to do that and address simple matters what may arise from his concerns. But at the present moment, I have no further comments to make.
Thank you, Councillor Stanley. I believe the next question is Councillor Cook, is it? I call on Councillor Cook.
Madam Mayor, we've heard Councillor Caulfield proudly claim that he has revolutionised roads resurfacing, investing £8 million into fixing Dudley's roads. Sounds impressive, but let's talk about the reality that our residents face every day. Councillor Caulfield, despite this significant investment, our streets are plagued with potholes, crumbling surfaces and dangerous conditions. Why are drivers forced to fork out costly vehicle repairs, and why are pedestrians still at risk of navigating uneven and damaged walkways? Dudley deserves better. Our residents work hard, pay their taxes and expect safe, well-maintained roads in return. Councillor Caulfield, can you tell me where this money has actually gone, and can you provide me with a detailed, transparent breakdown of spending? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Over to you, Councillor Caulfield.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cook, for giving me that question. I instinctively really want to give you directions because I know the last time that you and I discussed Dudley's highway network, I was really concerned whether you actually knew where Brawley Hill was. So I can confirm it's a town between Dudley and Stourbridge. Madam Mayor, I'm proud to update members that the Dudley Council has recently achieved national accreditation from the Association for Public Service of Excellence under the category of Most Improved Local Authority Highway Network. And to update the Chamber on the work that's been carried out to achieve that, we've spent around £6 million in 2024-25 so far on resurfacing, with Dudley Council's highways team carrying out works on 70 roads across the borough. More than 9 miles of roads have been reconstructed or resurfaced. A further £2.3 million has been spent on repairing potholes and pavements in the financial year to date. The highways team has also filled in 2,700 potholes across the borough, following reports from residents, with a further 650 pavement repairs completed so far. Madam Mayor, I need to clarify as well, as I have done in the past, that the Dudley Borough has over 740 miles of roads. We're actually in the second financial year of a 5-year proactive repair and maintenance programme and resurfacing programme. We have prioritised the main highways network, but I can assure members, as we go into the 3rd financial year, we will be prioritising side roads and estates. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Caulfield. A supplementary question, Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for telling me where Brawley Hill is. I really do appreciate that. Could you provide me with a list of roads that have been resurfaced, because residents struggle to find some? Because I travel up and down Dudley Borough most days, and the roads are just littered with potholes everywhere. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Caulfield.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, Councillor Cook, well, if I can bring your ward into the scenario, I'm sure you know the Delph Road. That's probably one of the furthest roads in the Brawley Hill ward. That was one of the first that's been resurfaced. So if you follow your way back through your ward, you probably come across a level street as well. That's where you allegedly personally secured the funding for the final stage of the Metro link. And then obviously you go through Harthill and Holly Hall, where you come to the end of the Stourbridge Road. So that's, you know, you can see there through your own wood. But I'm certainly happy as well, Madam Mayor, to collate. Do you want the whole of the borough, or do you just wanted your own ward? Happy to do that.
Can I suggest that you contact us via email on that one? I would like to say, though, that when I was the cabinet member, I had on the website, I did used to have all the roads that were going to be done in the order they are. So maybe that would help you if you put that out. Okay. Then you didn't get questions at council then. Right. Okay. Councillor Priest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question's to the Cabinet Member for Children's Services. There are just 61 identified young carers in the Dudley Borough, according to the Carers Trust. That's one of the smallest numbers of any local authority in the country. I'm perfectly willing to accept that Dudley is an outlier and has a genuinely low number of young carers, but I suspect that's not the case. Young carers miss an average of 23 days, school days per year. They're much more likely to drop out of college or university. So can I ask the Cabinet Member what work the Council does with local schools and colleges to identify and support young carers, and if he feels that the level of work is, and if he feels that the level of work is insufficient, would he consider championing this issue?
Thank you, Councillor Priest. Councillor Stanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, very interesting question. I take on board everything you said, and we'll get you a written reply, and I'll meet up with you personally and discuss your concerns. Thank you.
A supplementary question?
There we go. Taking a bit of liberty there because I'm probably going to ask my supplementary to the leader if that's okay. But the 13th of March is Young Carers Action Day. So could I also ask that we mark that day by signing up to the Young Carers Covenant, which is published by the Carers Trust?
Do you want to tell everybody, Councillor?
Into that, and if applicable, yeah, we'll sign up to that, Councillor Priest.
Thank you, Councillor Harley. Right, we're now going to questions, and the first councillor is Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a question for the Cabinet Member for Corporate Strategy. Following the recent comments from Councillor Ali and Miguel at last week's budget meeting around residents attending libraries for assistance since the closure of Dudley Council Plus, will the Cabinet Member confirm that he has sought feedback around these concerns? Thank you.
I hate to say it, Councillor Collins, could you get closer to the microphone and repeat your question? Because down here we couldn't quite hear you.
Sorry. This is a question for the Cabinet Member for Corporate Strategy. Following the recent comments from Councillors Ali and Miguel at last week's budget meeting around residents attending libraries for assistance since the closure of Dudley Council Plus, will the Cabinet Member confirm that he has sought feedback around these concerns? Thank you.
Councillor Atkins. Thank you, Councillor Collins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I heard the concerns raised in last week's budget speech by Councillor Ali and others, even going so far as to suggesting closing down the services in the libraries, impacting those who rely on them. First and foremost, safety of our residents and staff remain a top priority. Our library staff are highly trained in neurodiversity, conflict management and objection handling, ensuring they can provide the best possible support to those who need it. However, I do acknowledge that some residents do require additional assistance, and while we anticipated this challenge, I want to reassure the Council tonight that clear support mechanisms are in place. Library staff aren't expected to resolve every inquiry on their own. Instead, they have access to self-service scanners that send documents directly to the relevant council team, free phone linking them directly to a DC Plus, Dudley Council Plus advisor, hot dial to a DC Plus manager for additional support. The ability to request in-person assistance for vulnerable customers, particularly in Dudley Library. The numbers speak for themselves, and additional library visits remain within expectations, around 7 per day in Dudley and 4 in other locations, falling well within our contractual commitments with GLL. This was planned, prepared for, and we continue to monitor and adapt when needed. This administration is committed to ensuring that no resident is left without access to services they require, and by expanding our Dudley Council Plus services to these community locations, We will ensure that Dudley remains a place where all our residents are supported, valued and heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins. Have you got a supplementary, Councillor Collins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes. I'm sure the Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care will mirror my gratitude in the proactivity of the Directorate to address this matter, Councillor Atkins. Does the Cabinet Member also agree that this further reinforces the findings of library's social value within our borough?
Councillor Atkins.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, absolutely. It was amazing to hear that there were concerns raised about too many people visiting our libraries. I shouldn't have to stand here and list all the reasons why more residents accessing our libraries is a good thing for social value for our colleagues opposite. And it's staggering that councillors appear to object to these face-to-face services being brought into more locations. A single site on the far edge of the borough, supporting only a minority of residents, is clearly inferior than our alternative. Councillor Lowe actually said earlier this evening about ensuring all our wards looked after and not just one, and that is exactly what we have done. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins. I now call on Councillor Khan.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to the Leader of the Council. With the Sun newspaper recently ranking Dudley as the third worst place to live in England due to high crime rates and antisocial behaviour, we're particularly concerned with knife crime and antisocial use of off-road bikes. What immediate action is the Council implementing to address these issues and improve public safety?
Unfortunately, that will not stop them printing, so I now call on the Leader.
For once, I agree with Councillor Lowe. To Councillor Khan, a lot of these polls and results of these polls are very skewed because they ask very leading questions, and the results quite often don't bear reality. To the point, I was asked as Leader to give a quote. My preference is to ignore this tripe. It is absolutely trash journalism, and I'll look up to the balcony there with our local journalists who are obviously a lot more professional than some of their national counterparts. But Dudley, regardless of which ward you are in, I still think is a great place to live, and that's the message we should be sending out, all 72 of us. And if you still want to read The Sun, still do, but if you want to take Councillor Lowe's advice, do.
Do you wish to ask a supplementary, Councillor Khan? I'd just like to second what the Leader has just said. It's what I've been doing for the last 10 months. You know, that's what you need. Somebody, the figurehead, telling everyone what a great place it is to live. And I have to say, I agree. I'm not telling fibs. Right. OK. Councillor Daniel Bevan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I ask the Chair of the Environment and Regeneration Scrutiny Committee if he has come to a judgment on the impact of the proposed NPPF changes to Dudley Council, and whether he will schedule time for Scrutiny Committee to meet and discuss this issue? Thank you.
Who is the Chair of? It's Councillor Ahmed. Oh, Councillor Ahmed. OK. Yes.
Thank you. I think I was asked previously last year a similar question on something slightly different, but I don't give answers on things like that in the chamber. I think it's important for me as chair of committee to put forward my views in the committee as part of the scrutiny process. As previously mentioned, more than happy to discuss issues of this nature. We've recently, we do have regular meetings for the agenda, so if we can slip it in one of the forthcoming meetings, more than happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a supplementary question? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Does the Chair acknowledge then the impact that the mandatory housing targets will actually have on councils like Dudley, where Greenbelt land will be systematically targeted by national government and decision-making will actually be taken out of our hands?
Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Astley? Ahmed?
Thank you. As with any other decision of the government, they all have an impact on local councils and local areas. So as mentioned, we will go through this in one of the scrutiny committees and scrutinise this thoroughly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I call on Councillor Phipps.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'll give you advance warning. You may decide that this question may not be within order of the Procedure Rule 11, but I'll ask it anyway. It's to the, I'm unsure is the reason why I say that. It's to the Chair of the Audit and Standards Committee, Councillor Cole Dennin, and it's following on from mentions about disagreement on the Labour benches to do with the introduction of car parking charges. I wonder if Councillor Denning, as the whip of the Labour group, could confirm that Labour group members were whipped to nod through the introduction of car parking charges when it was put forward.
I don't really think that's anything to do with the business of this council. Good try, though. Nice try. Nice try. I now call on... Oh, Councillor Kesey, get on with it. You're next. Councillor Kesey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You've caught me on the hop there. Facetious first question. Just wanted to ask the Cabinet member for corporate strategy, I think, how long it took him and Councillor Collins to plot that question and answer. Was it worth it? Thank you. And I have got a supplementary.
Councillor Atkins. Be brief.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Kesey. Yeah, it was really important that we asked that in full council tonight because, as you know, we ran out of time on Monday night due to various shenanigans, and I didn't have a chance to answer the accusations put directly to the members opposite. So we use that as an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kesey, would you like to supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Atkins. On a serious note, for the residents of Sedgley, could you update me tonight on how the situation is with the future of Sedgley Library? Obviously, we know that the library will have to move out of its current home next year. How are we moving on with potential future sites? Can you just update me so I can update residents? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kesey. Councillor Atkins.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, I can't update you much because it's actually falls under the corporate landlord for a new site. As you know, we are committed to keeping all our libraries open as per the budget and various other statements. We're progressing with trying to find a new site, but unfortunately, I can't tell you anything more than that because it's outside of my portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Atkins. And I call on Councillor Peter Drake.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question for the Cabinet Member for Highways Environment. As everybody knows, fly tipping is a hell of a problem. It really is a problem in the north of the borough, as I'm sure you'll accept. You've got it in Gornal, Woodset, and particularly in Coseley recently. I've had a couple of cases just in the past week. You've had fridge freezers dropped off at Coseley Library. It's not just books now. They're dropping off the fridge freezers for us to get rid of. And I'd just like you to tell me, what is the strategy in regards to fly tipping? Is there a strategy? Because you've closed access to Anchor Lane tip. You've closed, well, obviously you're cutting down the pop-up tip. Is there a strategy? And how does closing all these services actually improve the situation? Because closing these services as far has just worsened it. Is there a strategy? Is it going to get any better with what you're doing?
Thank you, Councillor Drake. Over to you, Councillor Caulfield.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Drake. Fly tipping is actually a national issue that's driven by organised crime. You know, you have mentioned the closure of Anchor Lane. That was far before my time, and I think that was a Wolverhampton Labour Council that did that. There is a bigger strategic review going on now with our HWRC provision, which includes Stourbridge, Blowers Green, and the wider afield. So, as I say, that's a strategy that's going on at the moment. And obviously, I'm mindful of some of the points that you've brought up, and obviously that will be taken in part of that strategy. And as soon as we get to the end of that, and I've got more information to share with you, then obviously I'm happy to share that with all members in the chamber. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Caulfield. Councillor Drake, have you got a supplementary question?
If you could let us know when that's due, that'd be appreciated. I've got to say, just from a, you know, a normal member of the community's point of view, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And I feel you have to do more to improve things. It really is a bad situation. It's not nice when you walk down the high street and there's fridge freezers dumped on one side, bags of rubbish on the other. Rats love it. Rats are proliferating absolutely everywhere. And we'd love something in the north of the borough. I mean, you know, you've got the tip in Stourbridge. It's not brilliant for those who live in Stourbridge because absolutely everybody's heading there with their cars filled with rubbish. That's not good for them. It's not good for their roads. It's certainly not good for the north of the borough. We'd love some provision for us, which has just been cut away, which is not really acceptable, is it? And as I said, the strategy does not seem to be working. Just a few simple things you might know off the top of your head. The number of prosecutions for fly tipping, if you know what that is, or if you could tell me later. And the cost of removing the fly tipping, it can't be cheap. Taking away this rubbish again and again, it's got to cost the council a lot of money. Wouldn't that money be better put towards, you know, access to some kind of a proper tip, not just the side of the road, which has become the case under the Conservatives.
Thank you, Councillor Drake. Councillor Caulfield.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Drake. I mean, there's certainly no evidence that that there's any increase in fly tipping since you've mentioned the closure of the pop-up tip in the north. But what I can reassure you is this: you know, I'm a Dudley North resident myself, so you know, I agree with you. You know, the location of Stourbridge is quite a distance from us. The strategic review will take that on board. You know, so we'll be looking at a permanent site more than a temporary provision. So I'm mindful of that. And as I say, as soon as we've got to the end of that strategic review, then obviously I'll share that with all members. The figures that you've asked off the top of my head, I don't know. I'm quite happy to get you the figures of, you know, of the summonses that have been out there, and also the figure, you know, that it costs the council. I mean, it's roughly, I believe, around about £180,000 a year, and there hasn't been any increase in that over the last couple of years, as far as I know. But I will get you concrete figures on both of those. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Caulfield. The last question will be from Councillor Adam Aston, because we're coming up to our 30 minutes. Councillor Aston.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. My question's for Councillor Goddard. My mum recently was written to by the council and was invited to take part in the 2024-25 National Adult Social Care Survey. So she received a pack in the post containing several pages and a prepaid envelope to be returned back to the council. The completed survey had a deadline return date back to the council of the 23rd of February. Unfortunately, she received it on the 27th of February. Now, this might sound like a trivial issue, but my concern is that there's been a cost to the council, however small, particularly if many folk have received this survey unnecessarily. And it's not a good look just days after we sat in this meeting, which saw £42 million worth of cuts, 8 million within the Adult Social Care Directorate. It really doesn't give a good impression. So I wonder if Councillor Goddard can commit to ensuring more care is taken to ensure unnecessary costs like this are incurred, as it really is a waste of money. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Councillor Goddard.
Thank you, Councillor Aston. Yeah, I definitely will. I can reassure you. And my concern is not just the fact of the money that we've lost or could potentially have lost, but the information that we could have used. So I will look into that and see what I can do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goddard. Okay. Well, the 30 minutes is now up. So if you do have any questions, the only person left to speak was you, Councillor Kesey. But of course, you can always write to. You can't. If you do have a question, will you please, you can send it in writing or raise the question at the next appropriate meeting. We have no urgent business. I'm not concluding the meeting yet because there are two things. Please will you give my best wishes to Councillor Razak having to leave the meeting. I know he wasn't well and I wish him well. And we also wish you well, Councillor Aston, at your father's funeral on Friday. But please give our regards to past Mayor Margaret Aston. There is no urgent business, so that concludes this meeting of the council. Well done, everybody. You were very well behaved tonight.